Welcome into SIUE. This is the SIUE Coaches Show. I'm Joe Pott. This is the place where we fill you in on everything Cougar athletics. We'll talk a little basketball. We'll also talk about the NCAA Division I certification process. We've got the men's and women's head basketball coaches, Lennox, Forrester, and Amanda Levens with us this week. We've also got Dr. Brad Hewitt. He's the Director of Athletics here at SIUE, and he's going to fill us in on the entire process of certification to NCAA Division I. Believe me, it is a process, but he'll fill us in on all the details. Sit back, relax, take in a little Cougar athletics for the next half hour or so. Join us here. It's the SIUE Cougar Coaches Show. We're going to jump right into it. And our first guest tonight is Dr. Brad Hewitt, the Athletic Director here at SIUE. And Dr. Hewitt, we're moving towards the full certification in a couple of seasons here. Give us an update a little bit of what the process is like right now and maybe what's next for SIUE.
Sure, Joe. If you'll recall, it was almost a year ago at this time frame when I told everybody we're halfway there. And now another year has passed, and we're a year and a half away, or 18 months from hopefully being fully certified. So we're on that downhill stretch. The institution has its full certification committee. It's been identified. There are, as like all institutions, 4 subcommittees. Each one of those are working on a different aspect of the certification process. There have been multiple meetings on campus with our constituents, external consultants. This coming spring, we will finalize a report to the NCAA. Over the summer, they will review it. We have a certification team that's been identified. The new president, or excuse me, the president of University of South Alabama, who is newly Division I in the last few years, has been chosen as the team leader for that committee. So they'll be on campus then in the fall, possibly for 3 to 5 days. There could be returns. In the meantime, there'll be modifications of the report and so forth, and then hopefully sometime between March and May of that following spring, we'll be notified that come July 1, we'll be fully operating Division I program.
And people don't realize it's not just stepping up to Division I competition, that they really examine the program as a whole when making this determination.
It's an exhausting process, both internally and externally. They look at all aspects of your program. They look at all aspects of the institution. It's an institutional commitment and move, from the registrar's office to financial aid to academic support and oversight. The president's, chancellor's office, the provost office, every aspect of the institution is reviewed for processes, procedures, communication, the number of annual reports, the number of semi-annual reports. Everything is looked at, and they have their baseline recommendations, and if you're meeting those or exceeding those, that's great, but the process, they always find something that you can do better.
We've always talked about, or you've always talked about, doing things the right way, and as you move through the process, continuing to focus on the student athletes, focus on their accomplishments, and one of the things that they've been, certainly can be proud of is the streak. If you want 10 straight semesters now of a cumulative grade point average of 3.0 or better, that's very impressive.
Yeah, we're extremely excited. We're waiting still on some final numbers to know our exact grade point average overall, but we know we're going to be above 3.0. We possibly and probably will have our highest GPA ever as a department. And we also have our highest number of teams. 14 of our 16 are going to be above a 3.0. We have maybe, I think, 3 to 4 grades that we're still waiting on final analysis on. But it's been a great streak. It started with the original strategic task force on Division I, that the institution, through this process, if it decided to go to Division I, would not leave its core value of academic success and graduation. And obviously that's been an emphasis all the way through the process, from the chancellor and the provost and our staff. Coaches, we're recruiting student athletes, and while we found that it's been difficult to recruit, and what is out there in the marketplace for us, it's been a little harder, but with extra effort, extra support and staff, we've been able to maintain that streak, and our goal is to never lose that. Realistically, it could be some point in time down the road where it could happen, but we'll never be very far from that.
But what a testament to the department, to the coaches, and certainly the student athletes.
Exactly, and you know, it's a process for them. Even a very strong student that comes in, still college life is different, flexibility is different, and they have to make a commitment to be successful still.
Dr. Hewitt, thanks so much for taking some time with us here on the show. Certainly appreciate the update, and I'm sure all our viewers do as well.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks.
That's the athletic director here at SIUE, Dr. Brad Hewitt. We're back for more after this on the SIUE Coaches Show. We're back on the SIUE Coaches Show here at SIUE. Our next guest is head women's basketball coach Amanda Levens. And Coach, a development that's come up since we talked last is you've added a game, which is a little bit unusual at this point in the season, but you get a game with Purdue coming up on January 27th. Tell me how that came about and why at this point in the season it's come about.
Well, they had an unfortunate incident happen around Thanksgiving. The team was supposed to travel to Cancun to play in a tournament, and they had a player come down with meningitis kind of last minute, totally out of the blue, and so they didn't travel the team because they weren't sure who was going to be impacted by it if anyone else had it. So that cost them 2 games that they definitely want to play this year. So they put someone on their staff in charge of calling independent schools that aren't, in conference play, and they saw that we weren't full. We still had 1 game available to play on our schedule. So we just, we thought it'd be a great opportunity for our team to play, a traditional, very good women's basketball program in Purdue, and it worked out that they'll return back to our place in a couple of seasons.
I think that's great. I mean, obviously it gives these girls a chance to go play in a big environment and, as you said, against a perennial power, but maybe more importantly is the fans get to see Purdue come here next year or a year after that, whatever it turns out to be. That's pretty exciting.
It is, and we always talk about where we want our program to go, and playing teams like Kansas and DePaul and teams that have had success and play in bigger conferences, as people would call it. It gives our team a chance to see kind of what it's going to take to get to that level and to play another regional school in Purdue, a team that we see players that they recruit, they see players that we recruit, and so just another regional team to play I think is a great experience for our program.
So kind of a cool thing there. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule here as we've passed the holidays now and into the new calendar year. You've got a home heavy schedule in January, 4 straight home games and then 5 of 6. Is this a chance to maybe build some momentum as you get down the stretch?
Well, I think, we've had several days of practice, which we hadn't had really lately in our schedule, because we did have a few days, but it was during finals, and so it's a little bit different approach, but we just try to take it 1 game at a time. We want to have success on Thursday against Eastern Illinois and then build on it and, play well against South Dakota, but, from the way we kind of direct our team, we don't talk about it in chunks like that. We just try to keep our players in the moment, focus on what we need to do right now, and then, we can't win those 4 games unless we win the first one or unless we win the second one, so we just try to really stay in the moment with this group.
One of the things about the schedule as well is it's very OVC heavy as you get into the second half, which obviously you were fighting their conference schedule, but you get to play, as you described it, your own conference, and that's kind of how you look at it. Tell me about that a little bit, playing so many OVC schools.
Well, we play 12 games against our conference foes this year, and with our team, we really look at it as that's our conference play. We have, I think in the back of everybody's minds, we have goals of how many games we want to win, and it's a great gauge to see where we're going to be and where we need to get to be competitive for a conference championship next year. So in our minds, these 12 games are huge for us. They're our own separate schedule away from the whole season schedule, and I don't know how the OVC schools look at us. We're probably a non-conference opponent to them, but in our minds, I think it means a lot more.
Yeah, and obviously it's a chance to see where you need to be, measuring yourself against some of these teams that are in the conference, and obviously, either at the top or the bottom of the conference, but it gives you a good gauge, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and then to play teams twice, like at their place and then coming back to our place, it's totally a different feel to play someone 3 weeks later. You can go back and look at the film, and it's different. You're not just scouting them versus other opponents, and you're going to make adjustments, they're going to make adjustments, and I think a lot of times who wins that second game, it's who learns the most from their first game and who can put it together, the second time around, and I think that's a great experience for our entire team, because that's not something we've really been able to do the last 2 years, is play several people twice.
Tell me a little bit about expectations as you get through the holidays, and as you said, you've gotten a little bit of practice, and I know the games kind of come in bunches a little bit here as your schedule goes. What are some expectations for you? And obviously, I know you'd like to win every single game, but specific expectations moving forward here.
I think just to get better. You know, one thing I was really proud of our team last year is how much better we got after Christmas. And I think with this team, we started out a little bit differently than we expected or people expected. And I just want to be competitive. I want our team to learn to be consistent. We're very young, and a lot of these players will be back the next 2 years for us. And so it's important for them to learn every day how they need to practice for us to be successful. And I think when our team learns that, they're going to be very good and we're going to have a chance to win every game. But we're still fighting that a little bit, trying to get everybody to be consistent every day. But I feel like if they can just turn the corner with that, they could do some special things here at SIUE.
Is it something that you and the staff can do in practice, or is it at the point where the girls have to kind of do that? They have to know, you know, what you expect, and they have to work towards that. How do you get that consistency that you're striving for?
You know, I think you fight for it every day. You know, I think as a group we have to do it. It's not necessarily on the team and it's not necessarily on the coaches, but as a group we have to keep it in mind every day. And we talked a lot about staying in the moment. We have to do what we're doing right now correctly, and that's the only way that we're going to get consistent. We can't think about tomorrow's practice or playing Eastern Illinois. Like, we have to focus on right now all the time. And I think if we can get our players to do that, to stay in the moment, will be the biggest first step that will lead to that.
You and I have talked previously this year about the role that the freshmen are playing and the younger players, and you mentioned it already in this interview that you've got these girls for the next couple of years. How big of a role does that play, that they're getting this kind of minutes and this kind of playing time now this young?
Well, it can be huge. You know, it's a matter of how they learn from this experience. You know, Raven and Courtney and Michaela all last year after Christmas, really, Raven came on strong early, but Courtney and Michaela flourished late. And I think our freshmen can do the same thing because they are getting opportunities. Valerie Finnan's really coming on for us. You know, Alyssa Decker's had some great games, and then Jazz has had some great games for us. So I think the more that they play, and it's a matter of keeping them fresh too. It's such a long season compared to high school, but they all have a chance to. I keep saying turn the corner, do things like that, but just they can get better and they can get so much experience. They can understand the OVC, and now when we have freshmen or new players come in next year, they can turn into leaders for us and advocates for the program.
Off the basketball court, it's also, now that you're into second semester, they know a little bit more of what to expect as far as balancing the schoolwork and budgeting their time a little bit, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, over the break it's tough because they have so much free time, not being in school and keeping them structured. And we try to find time to keep them occupied doing other things, getting involved with community service or doing things when we travel as a group. So when they get back into school, I think at first it kind of hits them like, wow, we're really busy again. But, you know, all of our players are very motivated academically and are strong students, which is something we're very proud of. So I think they're probably excited to get back to school. We have a group that they like going to school and they like classes and they like learning, so that's been nice for us.
Coach, thanks so much for taking the time. Certainly we look forward to the rest of the season. We'll talk to you again on the next show.
Thank you.
That's Cougar head coach Amanda Levens with us here. There's more to come on the SIUE Coaches Show. Back on the SIUE Coaches Show here at SIUE. We're joined now by Cougars head men's coach, Lennox Forrester. Coach, the biggest news since the last time you and I got together here anyway was the tournament championship there in Las Vegas. I know it's always been a big thing for you to give the guys that tournament experience and to have the chance to bring home a trophy. You've done it now for the second year in a row. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I think it's, you know, very special for our guys to go places and you know, have that experience being out in Vegas and being able to take care of business while we were out there too. And that was our focus the whole entire time that we were there, was to win a championship while we were out there. And the fact that they played pretty good the first day and then come out the second day and have the great focus with all the other side shows that's going on, and for them to keep their concentration and be locked in to win a championship, I thought it was awesome. And again, you know, hopefully that's something that we can build on as we move forward to getting into postseason play and all.
I have to imagine it's a good learning experience too, because you win that first game. Obviously you get a little time to prepare for long with the first game, but you win that first game and you've got to turn it around in 12 hours basically. You're going to play again, and you find out later that it's the Citadel, and they have to learn how to prepare that quickly.
Well, that's a, you know, growth of a team. whenever you can turn around the next day and be prepared and go through where you don't have to practice for 3 hours to be prepared for a team. And that's part of, the transition that you're making, throughout the season, to where here, we worked on cross screen, down screen, flare screen. You got everything that you've worked on already, to where when you get into a conference setting, that you don't need that practice time, and it's more just mental than it is physical to be ready for the next game.
Now, after you win those couple of games, you win the championship, you get to hoist the trophy. One of the things you told me is you have to worry about the guys kind of getting complacent, sitting back a little bit on that. Is that a legitimate worry for you?
It absolutely is, and just because, as you're growing as a team, as you're growing as a program, you're trying to set the bar higher, and to where never feel satisfied with what you did last year, never feel satisfied with how you played last game, but always be ready for the next challenge, and that's kind of what sports is, And I mean, you're looking at Duke, who won a championship last year, but at the same time they're going pretty hard to where they're the #1 team in the country now and playing for another title, and our guys got to kind of have that mentality, is whether you fail or successful the last challenge, you got to always put that aside and move on forward to the next challenge.
Your schedule spreads out a little bit over the last third of the season, or a little more than a third of the season. You don't have quite so many games back to back. Does that make it easier for you? Is it tougher because you have a little more time between games?
Well, not being in a conference kind of put us in that position to where we have to play games back to back. I'd rather it to be the opposite, to where your games are spread out to you can work on certain things, and now as a season, as you're further along in the season, now you can play those games back to back because you don't need the amount of time to be prepared. You already worked on a lot of things, just like being in the Vegas tournament, being able to play one game, and then at the same time the next day you're playing and prepared for another team. I wish it was reversed in that sense, but you know what, our guys, and right now our mentality is getting better every day. So as we get these days spread out before we have a game, our focus is still the same: get better between games so we can end up winning along the way.
One of the things about your schedule that I know is just as you wanted it and as you planned it was it's a home-heavy schedule here after the holidays and after the change of the year. You've got a lot of home games, and you told me early this year that that's something that you really wanted to do this year if you could, and you got that done. One thing that these young men are here for is definitely academics. They're student athletes, and you always want to treat them in that manner. And it's having those home games help, with them spending more time in the classroom. And it turns out this year, rather than how it was last year, to where we have some home games, and I think it's also good for your body too, and just physically, with all the travel that you're doing, and now it's so spread out, and all the home games that you have, hopefully it can help a lot, and also bring excitements to our fan as we move forward to the next year. To hopefully we can hold our home court advantage and get some win at home, and hopefully that could carry over for next year to bring some excitement, and our fans and us, looking forward for the next year. Carry that right into next year, and you've got the OVC schedule next year as well. Most definitely, and something that we're looking forward to, and I know it's going to be very challenging because the OVC is a very good league. Got some very good coaches and players in it, to where it's going to be it's going to be a very challenging for us, to where every night in and night out we got to be prepared mentally and physically. It's going to be a lot of fun though too, to finally get that conference schedule again. It will be, because again, we had a goal when we went to Vegas to win a championship, and now you have a season-long goal, to where even when you win or you lose, you still have something at the end to where you're still competing for, and kind of bring that focus to the table, where now with this year, there's nothing at the end to what we're playing for, other than obviously pride and representing SIU in a first-class way. Coach, thanks so much again for taking some time on this week's SIUE Coaches Show, and we'll talk to you down the road. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. That's Cougar head coach Lennox Forrester. Now it's time for another player profile here on the SIUE Coaches Show. Today we look at junior point guard Corey Wickware. Wickware, a transfer from Wabash Community College. He's an Indianapolis native, and he's leading the team in scoring this year. averaging 11.5 points per game through 17 games this season. Wickware is also leading the team with an average of almost 29 minutes a game. He has scored in double figures, a team leading 12 times this season, and he's led the team in scoring 5 times this year. That's more than any other player. Junior point guard Corey Wickware, he's our profile this week on the SIUE Coaches Show. We're back with more right after this on the SIUE Coaches Show, right here on CCIN. Welcome back to the SIUE Coaches Show. Plenty going on here at SIUE. Here's a look at some of the things that are upcoming right here at SIUE. And there's plenty more here at SIUE. Don't forget, if you can't be at the games, we'll have them all for you on 590 The Fan, KFNS, or Sports Radio 1380, and also on 88.7 FM WSIE. I'll have the call on all of those games for you, home and away, men's games and women's games. All home games, if you can't be there, you can watch them online at SIUETV.com. And for everything Cougar athletics, whether it's basketball or any other sports, you can always log on 24/7 at SIUECougars.com. You can find everything that you want right there at SIUECougars.com, including rosters, stories, photos, all the good stuff there online all the time. Don't forget to tune in here on CCIN. A couple more games to come from the Vidal Bean Center. Randy Carricker, Joe Zidlow, and Mike Gibson call all the action right here as well. We've got a couple more shows coming up for you in a few weeks. We're back here for the SIUE Coaches Show. We'll check in again with our basketball coaches and perhaps some other guests as well. We'll keep you filled in on everything SIUE Cougars. Thanks so much for all the folks helping us out this time on the show. We'll see you next time right here at SIUE. It's the SIUE Coaches Show. I'm Joe Pott. Thanks so much, everybody. So long.